What's up everyone, my name is Dakota and I'm going to take you through my chest, shoulder, and tricep workout from the other day. I want to thank you for coming back to the channel. If this is your first time, please give it a like, share, or subscribe. So today we start out with flat barbell bench press, worked up to 10 sets of 3. So for all my big 3 movements, squat, bench, and deadlift, I'm structuring them in a 10x3 method. So basically my goal is to hit 10 sets of 3 while increasing 10 pounds each week. So for bench press, I started at 195 pounds. Because that was 7% of a 1 rep max, and each week, like I said, I'm going to add 10 pounds to that. So here we're working with 215 pounds. Next week I'll increase that to 225 pounds, and say the next week that I only get 8 sets, then the following week with 235 pounds I'll aim to get 8 sets of 10, and say I only get 6 sets, then with 245 pounds I'll aim to get 6 sets of that. As you see here, the bar is moving pretty fast and I have a pretty good bar path, so that is really good. I mean, the weight still is relatively light for me. So as we start increasing the weight, they should progressively get harder, and that's why I'm not projected to hit all 10 sets of 3 as we get up to, say, 255 pounds. Next, we moved on to incline dumbbell bench press. We worked up to 3 sets of 7. Usually I like to take about 2 sets as a warm-up set, so I started with the 40s, then went to the 55s, and then jumped into the 70s. This allows your muscles to kind of get in the rhythm of everything, and that way you're not jumping into it cold. You still get that movement pattern down. So I slowed the tempo down on these compared to last week. Last week I was able to use the 85s for 3 sets of 7, but this week I want to slow it down a little bit and kind of focus on the tempo and make sure I'm getting the full range of motion. And then another thing I like to focus on is kind of keeping my elbows tucked in a little bit. It helps prevent shoulder injuries. A lot of times people complain about their shoulders hurting when they press. So I feel like that helps out a ton. Next, we moved on to cable flies. So here we're just working on 5 sets of 10. The thing I like to focus on these is as I'm coming through, I kind of like to bring my pinkies together. I feel I can just contract my chest a lot more that way. Another thing I like to focus on, instead of focusing on bringing your hands together, focus on squeezing your elbows together, and that's going to help contract that chest a lot more as well. So there's multiple ways that you can perform chest flies. One of my favorite ways to perform them is how I'm doing them right here. Putting both feet together and leaning forward slightly. What this allows you to do is focus more on the chest itself instead of, say, putting like half the stack on there and just throwing them around. Because this forces you to lessen the weight since you're not really having a steady base. Another thing I like to do is kind of retract my shoulders and keep those in place. That way, as I'm bringing the weight forward, only my chest is working. I'm not using that positive momentum with my other body parts to kind of contract everything. So next we moved on to standing dumbbell shoulder press. So each week I alternate these between a dumbbell shoulder press and then a barbell overhead press. So I've had a couple shoulder injuries to my right shoulder, so that's kind of why this is one of my weaker movements. But what I found to help out a lot is kind of, instead of keeping my shoulder out at like a 9-degree angle, kind of tuck it in a little bit. I just feel that protects my shoulder a lot more. So then another good thing that I have to focus on is kind of keeping the core tight. And a way to do that is you want to squeeze your butt together, and then I feel like that kind of keeps your spine neutral. A lot of people kind of overarch their back, and it could lead to potential injuries as well. So I'm just always trying to find ways that I can perform this better. Alright, next we moved on to dumbbell lateral raises. So I'm not saying that I perform these 100% correct the whole time either, but I do see a lot of people perform these wrong. So key things that I like to focus on is keeping my elbow higher than my wrist at all times, as you can see here. Another big key component that I like to focus on that I think really helps me feel it in my lateral head of my shoulder compared to anywhere else is retract your shoulder blades and kind of keep them pinned back there. That way, as you're bringing the weight up, the only muscle that's working is that medial head of your shoulder. Another thing that I like to focus on is leading with the elbow. Your hands are basically just grips on them. So as you're bringing the weight up, you're leading with your elbow and not your hand. Unless I'm going super heavy on these, I like to keep my body as motionless as possible. That way you are just focusing on that lateral raise and not using excessive movement. So we supersetted the lateral raises with dumbbell tricep overhead extensions. So just like the shoulder press, I alternate this with a rope just to add different variants. I also add different tempos as well. So key thing with this, I like to put my hand like a volleyball pretty much, put the base of the dumbbell in between there. I feel like that helps a lot. And to finish the workout off, we finished with tricep extensions. So what I like to focus here, if you're having a hard time feeling your triceps work, lower the weight a little bit and focus on the contraction itself. So as you notice, I keep my upper arm as stationary as possible. And another thing to help with that, I pin my shoulder blades back. That way it kind of locks your arm into place. And as you see, as we're going down, we're just focusing on that contraction at the bottom. Some days I like to hold it for about 2 seconds. Some days I hold it for 1. So I'm a big fan of mind to muscle connection. I feel that helps me the most. Instead of just putting the whole stack and pressing, that kind of helps me a lot. If you guys like this style of video, go ahead and leave a comment and I'll be sure to do more. I want to thank you guys for checking this video out. Peace.